Good morning friends and welcome to the pre-market view. US markets were marginally up about 0.06 to about 0.1% as we would have some clarity on the tapering stance by the US Federal Reserve over the next 2 to 3 days, and which is why we are seeing some amount of caution in the US market. So overall bias there is definitely weak because we've lost quite a ground in the last about 4 to 5 days time. European markets too were weak about 0.12 to almost about 0.22%. No major negative reaction, but overall sentiment continues to be weak there. No major data points were there in the European markets. And when we look at the Asian markets today morning, most of the markets are weak. In fact, in the last half an hour of trade, they have lost quite a bit of ground, particularly Hang Seng and Nikkei, as the Chinese manufacturing PMI data that came out today morning were below expectations. They came in at about 50.5 versus the expectations of about 50.8, and we are seeing some negative tick in the Asian markets because of that. Back home, our markets also continues to slide, and in fact in the last about 4 days of trading, we've lost almost about 200 points on the Nifty and almost about 700 to 800 points on the Bank Nifty. And we've seen most of the index heavyweight, particularly banking, the infrastructure pack, and even the metal pack as a whole has shown a lot of weakness. In terms of flows, friends, on Friday the FIs were net sellers in the cash market to the tune of 432 crore, and in the index futures they were sellers to the tune of almost about 900 crore. The selling by the domestic institutions were very meager, 45 odd crore. On that note, let me invite Sadhana to take us through important F&O cues and ideas that we could have from the F&O side.
Good morning friends, let's have a view on derivatives. On Friday we have seen that markets continue to trade very volatile, and due to weakness in majority of the sectors, Nifty finally settled below the mark of 6,200 with a significant loss of more than 1%. In this period we have seen that short positions were squared up by market participants as around 1.29 lakh shares were reduced in open interest, and Nifty futures premium increased marginally from 28 to 29.35 points. And we have seen that on the options front, put option has added only 2 lakh shares in open interest, whereas call option has added 20 lakh shares in open interest, due to which PCR has decreased from 0.98 to 0.95, which is clearly visible in the options activity. As we see, put option strike of 6,000 and 6,100 has seen highest number of shares in open interest, and call strike of 6,200, 300 and 400 has seen a highest number of shares in open interest. From positional perspective, support would be 6120 on closing basis, and intraday support is 6170, and resistance would be 6220 and 6250. And FIs were mixed in Friday's trade. And ahead of WPI data, we may see market may highly volatile and uncertain, and we have revised our bias downwards. Our weekly VWAP is 6,300, so higher range would be 6,300 and lower range is 6,000. From intraday perspective, one can go short on Tata Global with a stop loss of 148.05. Thank you.
Here are the important news and events that we are tracking today. First of all, the government is scheduled to release the WPI inflation data for the month of November, and that is likely to come in at about 7%. And Coal India Board is going to meet today to consider a special dividend. Remember friends that because the divestment is likely to be put on hold and there's going to be a special dividend of about 26 to 28 rupees per share, Coal India stock is likely to remain in the positive territory today. And Clariant Chemicals board meeting is scheduled today to consider the proposed sale of the business of leather and the acquisition of Master Batches business. Torrent Pharma has acquired the formulation business of Elder Pharma for a total sum of about 2,004 crore, and Elder Pharma would retain the manufacturing and supply rights for these products for a period of 3 years. The valuation that has been arrived at about 17.5 times EV to EBITDA is on the higher side, both in terms of EV to EBITDA as well as sales to the market cap at about almost 3.9 times. But from a longer term perspective, it looks like a strategic fit for Torrent Pharma's existing portfolio. So over the next 2 to 3 years, this could definitely be positive, but in the short run, Torrent Pharma stock could negatively react because of the higher valuation that they have paid for this acquisition. Tata Motors global vehicle sales came in at about 81,957 units in November compared to about 1,02,000 units in the corresponding period last year. So this was a bit on a softer side. And today morning there is an announcement by the promoter of GSK Pharma to make an open offer for a 24.3% stake in the company at about 3,100 rupees per share, which is about 25% higher than the previous closing price on Friday, and the company plans to keep the Indian entity listed. So this is definitely a big positive trigger for the GSK Pharma. You could expect most of the MNC stocks, including GSK Consumer, to move up about 3 to 5% because of this move that has come today. State Bank of India is going to hire Citigroup, HSBC and few other investment bankers for a QIP of about 95.76 billion rupees at a price of about 1,800 or thereabouts. And lenders have agreed to restructure the Educomp infrastructure and school management's rupees 727 crore debt in November. So this process is on, and definitely this could be a bit of a relief for Educomp. Titan, some positive news, as there are indications that because of the much better trade deficit data that we've had in the last 2 months, there could be some kind of easing of the gold restrictions which have been put in place, and that could be a big positive for Titan. So one can go long there with a stop loss of 216 and a target of about 227 to about 231. And Tata Steel, because today's Chinese manufacturing data that has come out has not been that impressive at about 50.5%, one can short Tata Steel with a stop loss of 423 and a target of about 403 to about 398. And coming to the alpha delivery idea that we have released on Friday, we have put out a buy call on Cipla, which is currently trading at about 376, and we have set a target of about 490 for the stock. It is one of the most stable companies that we've had, and because of the enhanced focus on the technology intensive products in the inhalation and nasal spray segments, we think that it would provide a growth trigger. They have also established front-end presence in the US markets as well as South Africa and European markets, and they have developed an appetite for inorganic expansion through their acquisition of MedPro. So we think that since the stock has corrected and most of the triggers, the drivers are in place, one could look at accumulating the stock. And though the recent quarterly numbers were not impressive for the company, wherein they have reported a 15% kind of a growth in the exports, we think that most of these negatives are priced in. And going forward, we think that because of the optimization of the Indore formulation plant, which is likely to generate a revenue of about 600 crore, and its focus on the inhalation devices and difficult to make generics, we think that the company should be able to do very well. And we have set a target of about 490 rupees, which would imply a 19 times estimated earnings for FY15. Looking at the chart, if you see, the company has made some kind of a top around 430 to 435 levels, and the stock has been taking good support around 360 to 380 zone, and currently it's available at that level, so it makes sense to go for it. That's it from all of us, friends. Have a great trading session and see you tomorrow at the same time.